You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a successful motivational speaker and trusted life coach, Nancy knows how you can live the life you want regardless of the challenges you face. Although she's legally blind, Nancy's mission is to inspire others to overcome obstacles and live life full out. Call in at 800-333-0001 to ask Nancy for advice on topics such as relationships, finances, business, health, and more. Just call 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. And now, here's Nancy.
Hello, welcome to Living Full Out Show. I am Nancy Solari, and today we're going to be talking about confusion. When in life we feel like we don't have the answers, our back's against the wall, we're at sometimes our most lowest point, how do we lift ourselves up? How do we get motivated and get out of that rut into a place where we're no longer confused, where we actually see a clear vision for where we need to go to get out of that rut? So stay with us, and I want you to think about where in your life you're confused. It might be about a relationship. It might be about a career choice that a change that you're looking to make. Maybe it's your health. It could be anything. We want to help give you that empowerment to move you forward. Also, we will be taking your calls. Again, that number is 800-333-0001, 800-333-0001. Stay with us. In our next segment, we'll be having Judice on the phone. He's our inspirational guest for today, and his story is so touching. I'll just share with you briefly that he had a son, Eli, born with Spina Bifida, which it led him into so many limitations that the doctors even introduced the idea of miscarrying the baby, to abort the baby. But Chad and his wife Ashley said, no, we're going to stand by our son. We believe in him. It's a very powerful story. Also, if you are inspired by today's show and you feel as though you have a story that you'd like to share with our community, we'd love to hear from you. Or if you have questions about today's show, reach out to us at connect@livingfullout.com. Again, that's connect@livingfullout.com. And if you want to hear today's show again or listen to all of our episodes, you can go to livingfullout.com, click on the radio show tab, and all of our episodes will be waiting there for you. So I get word from our producer that we do have a caller on the line. Let's go ahead and say hello to them. Hi, welcome to the Living Full Out Show.
Hi, how are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for calling in. How can I help you?
I have a question. I've had many investments in the stock market. In fact, all of my wealth was in the stock market when it crashed. And since that time, I have been struggling, more or less, to try to catch up. And I have children that will be going through into college soon, so I've taken on extra jobs. But I have this cycle where I'm frustrated with always trying to catch up, and I'm in debt most of the time. So I have this struggle that I keep doing.
And first of all, I want to acknowledge that struggle, because as a man, as a father, I can only imagine when you go to sleep at night, sometimes it's hard to sleep. Sometimes you might be so dog-tired, you all you can do is fall asleep, right? It goes both ways. But I want you to think about two things. What is it, first of all, that you do, these two jobs? What do you do?
Well, the first one is a project contractor.
Okay.
So I do project work, and that's good work. It's been very good in the past, but it has dwindled down somewhat. The second one is a management of like a postal service type operation, and I do that at night, off hours.
Okay, so here's what I want you to think about with regards to these two jobs. Yes, they're a job. Yes, you have to punch in and punch out and you have to show up, right, to get paid.
That's
but
correct.
I want you to switch your energy around those jobs, and I want you to do your best to go in it with passion. Not passion because you love the job so much, but because of the outcome. Without you being there, without you doing that project management job, the contracting work, without being a part of that postal position, think of all the people that are the recipients of the work that you do and the purpose behind how important the job is that you're doing. When we put passion and purpose into what we do, I'm not going to say money's going to fall from the sky. Okay, we know that's not the case. But we always want to come from a place of gratitude that we have those opportunities, right? Because think of the people that not only can't get one job, but 2 jobs, right? And you got 2, and you do them really, really well. The other thing I want you to think about is the opportunity for financing that is out there. It isn't to say that as your kids journey through life, you want to load them up with loans, right? That isn't the case. But you want to energetically put out there the creative ways in which your family can leverage money. Maybe it's a loan. Maybe it's your children getting jobs of their own. Maybe it's the positive energy that good fortune will come to them early in the form of jobs, opportunities, a successful career choice and getting a job right out of school. All you can do is take that passion, take that purpose, take that positive energy, and keep moving it forward every day. As a man, as a father, you're doing it. You are living full out in a big way. And I am so proud of you. Do you get that?
Thank you.
And your kids, your wife, everybody is proud of you. Everybody acknowledges how hard you're working. And so you keep doing that because it's the love you have for your family. It's the passion and the purpose and the positive energy that will get you through those really hard days. And what I believe is when we do good for other people, those are your family, friends, and even the people who are the recipients of the good work that you do, the money will follow. Okay?
Okay.
So just go out there, keep living full out, keep being you. Life is meant to be lived, and you are living it in a big way. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for calling in. Have a great day.
So long.
It's so interesting because I can hear that confusion that I'm tired. I'm not making enough money. How do I make more money? How do I do this? How do I rebuild my investments? And I promise all of you that the confusion will find its way through the dark into the light. You will get clarity the more you trust yourself. Trust yourself to make good decisions. And when you make a decision that is a mistake, well, that's part of life. We all do it. I think I do it weekly, if not daily, right? So that's part of the journey. I'm getting word again from our producer that we have another caller on the line, so we're going to go say hello to them. Hello, welcome to the Living Full Out Show.
Hi.
Hi, thank you for calling. How can we help you today?
So my question is, I want to know how I can juggle between having classes and doing work and finding time to relax, because I've noticed that I haven't really had time to relax after I do work. I just go straight to sleep.
Well, let me ask you a question. So you're obviously busy. We've assessed that. Are you fine? Well, what brings you joy? Let's start there. What brings you joy? What would make you happy on any given day?
Well, I like reading, so I haven't had time to read.
Okay. Do you have a favorite song that lifts your spirits?
Yes, I do.
What would that be? First one that comes to mind.
Probably some classical piano music.
Okay. And then do you have a favorite food that when you eat it, you're like, oh, I just feel so much better?
Well, I do like strawberries.
You like strawberries. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So these are that's just one food, that's just one song, and that's just one activity that brings you joy. So what I want you to think about doing is don't be a victim. Don't let life force you or have power over you. Take that back. Mm-hmm. And how you take that back is you sneak in little times for you. Now, it might mean that you get up 10 minutes early to eat those strawberries, to listen to that song. It might mean that you get to one of your jobs just a little bit early so that you're not frazzled, you're not stressed. It gives you a time, again, to get that energy boost, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And even at night, when you're so tired, it's about taking time to not read a whole chapter of the book. Read 2 pages. because you
Okay.
want to reclaim your life. You don't want all these things to run you over, right? But if you do that, you will be living full out. You'll get out of this confusing, crazy time, and you'll be back on a path where you know that you're living your life. You're controlling it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, is that something you can try?
I haven't thought about that. Yeah.
Awesome. Great. Well, listen, thank you so much for calling in, and have a wonderful day.
Thanks, you too.
Okay, thank you. So the moral of the story here, everybody, is we can get out of confusion. It's just taking steps one day at a time, right? So when we come back, we're going to be joined by our inspirational guest, Chad Judice. His story is amazing. You don't want to miss it. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Dad, this is fun. I didn't think I'd like kayaking.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, but I think it's time to head back in.
Okay. Can we come back?
Sure.
Tomorrow?
Let's check with Mom. Hey, be careful getting out of the boat.
It's a kayak, Dad.
I'm going to return the kayak. Let's make sure you have everything.
Yep. Can we walk home?
How about a taxi? 233 North Maple, please.
It's a short fare from your neighborhood to your naturehood. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a neighborhood park or green space near you. Also, find fun activities to do like boating and biking or camping and hiking, plus much more. It's all right in your naturehood.
Best day ever.
A public service announcement brought to you by the Ad Council and the U.S. Forest Service.
Don't you wish that getting your child to eat right, move more, and spend less time in front of a screen could be as easy as pushing a button? It might not be that simple, but you do have more power than you know. And you can maximize that power with proven strategies, tips, and tools from the National Institutes of Health's We Can, or Ways to Enhance Children's Activity and Nutrition program. We Can offers all kinds of resources, including fun recipes and activities the family can do together to show you the way to live a healthier lifestyle. We're not saying it's easy. We are saying that it can be done. Take the first step today. Call 1-866-359-3226 for a free We Can Parents Handbook. And be sure to visit the We Can website at wecan.nhlbi.nih.gov for free information too. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Today, my new dad and I shot off a rocket in the park.
Today, my new son and I failed to shoot off a rocket.
He knew exactly what to do.
It's not what I had no clue what I was doing.
We set up the rocket.
Hit ignition.
And
then nothing. Ha 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 ha. Sometimes I laugh when I'm frustrated.
Then out of nowhere, the rocket launched into the air.
The rocket did get into the air.
I've never seen anything fly so high.
And then crashed into a kite. Look out! Look out! And then the pond.
I'll never forget that day.
I'll never forget that day, even if I tried.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of kids in foster care will take you just as you are. For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
When I was little, I didn't talk for a long time. I liked things to always be the same. Anything new or different would scare and upset me. I was very sensitive to lights and sounds. It was almost like I had bigger eyes and ears than everyone else. So I built secret hiding places where nothing could get in. I didn't like looking people in the eye. It made me feel uncomfortable. I'd throw big tantrums over little things like when my socks didn't match. Sometimes I'd do the same things over and over. Until one day, I found out I had autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I learned how to live with it better.
You can see signs of autism in children as young as 18 months. Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. A professional motivational speaker, Nancy can help you overcome obstacles and start living full out. Call in with questions live at 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. And now, here's Nancy.
Thank you for joining us today. I'm Nancy Solari, and this is the Living Full Out Show. And today we're talking about confusion. When life just gets so overwhelming, how do we find the answers? How do we find those solutions? How do we get ourselves to that point where we can exhale so we can live our life full out? Now, our inspirational guest today, Chad Judice, his story is inspiring, as I promised. It's one that will touch you in many ways. But it's the lessons that he learned. It's the signs that he was aware of, that guided him through. He experienced giving birth to Eli, his son, who had Spina Bifida, which he'll explain to us about, which has really led him and his wife, Ashley, on a journey of their own personal growth. It wasn't so much their son that needed to change and grow, it was them. And I'd very much like to introduce Chad Judice to the show. Welcome, Chad.
Hi, Nancy. Thanks for having me on your program. Honored to be here.
Absolutely. So before we jump into, before your son was born, getting all the news and all of that, can you just share with us briefly what Spina Bifida is so that our community has an idea?
Sure. Basically, it's a neural tube defect. That's what your spinal cord is called in utero. And it occurs in the first 6 weeks of pregnancy. And it literally means open spine. There are different types of spina bifida with different degrees of severity. Somebody could have the mildest form of spina bifida called spina bifida occulta, and they wouldn't even be aware of it. They would function as normally as you or I do. But if somebody was less fortunate, like my son was, and they were diagnosed with the most severe form of spina bifida called a myelomeningocele, that could include lots of problems for them in their life, paralysis, several complicated medical issues, and even mental incapacities, and so on and so forth. So the most severe form of spina bifida is called a myelomeningocele, and it's when the meninges of the spinal cord and the spinal cord itself protrude through an opening in the back and flow it out into the amniotic fluid in utero, and it can cause paralysis and other issues in a child's life once they're born.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that with us because it gives us some understanding of this journey that you've been on. Now, I want to go back in time a bit because even before your son was ever born, this is where your story really begins. You're a teacher in a Catholic school. You're having a conversation with your students. And that's when, you acknowledged what one of your biggest fears was. Can you share with us about that moment?
Sure. It was back in May of 2005, and I was teaching at the Cathedral Carmel. It's a K-8 Catholic school in my hometown in the Diocese of Lafayette, Louisiana, and all the academic requirements of the year were met. So with a little extra time on my hands, I allowed my students to ask me some personal questions, and I could decide if I wanted to answer them or not. And a young man in the back of the room had his hand up, and when I gave him the opportunity to speak, as you just said, he kind of asked the question of the ages, He said, "Hey, Coach, what's your greatest fear?" And I told him my greatest fear would be to have a child with a mental or physical handicap because I was such a perfectionist. I didn't think I'd handle that very well. And, I finished up my time at Cathedral, and I made a transition to a Catholic high school that's one of many feeder schools that happens to feed into it. It's called St. Thomas More Catholic High School here in Lafayette. And I've been there almost a decade, a little over a decade, teaching there since this took place. But 4 years after that question was asked, and I made that response. In a 16-week ultrasound, my greatest fear had become my wife and I's reality. And it was something that we could have never imagined. But sometimes I kind of felt like, it was a foreshadowing that I kind of announced or that I knew was coming in my life, even though at the time I wasn't really aware of it. It was more of a subconscious, hey, this is going to happen to you kind of thing, looking back on it now.
Well, when you get that news, so here you are, the doctors are looking at this ultrasound, and they tell you what? And what is the prognosis? What was their intention for what you should do with this baby?
Sure. When we walked into the ultrasound, we had a perfectly healthy 3-year-old son. We'd had no complications in our first pregnancy, so neither of us were expecting to get this kind of information. I remember the ultrasound tech kind of looking around when she started the ultrasound. I saw a confused look on her face and a concerned look on my wife's face, and My wife's a neonatal intensive care unit nurse in a hospital, so she deals with children with issues when they're born prematurely. So I could tell by her reaction to the text reaction something was wrong. And we said, hey, we don't want to know whether or not it's a boy or a girl until you can tell us it's healthy. And when I noticed that there was something wrong, I just asked the tech kind of in passing, hey, what's the problem? Is there something wrong? She says, I'm just having trouble locating a few things. And then she quietly got up and walked out of the room. And then moments later, another tech came in, and I kind of breathed a sigh of relief because I thought maybe the first one just didn't know what she was doing. But immediately when she began taking the ultrasound, the new tech, she had the same look on her face that the previous one did, and she really wasn't aware of our issue, with not wanting to know whether or not it was a boy or a girl, that they could tell us it was completely healthy. And, she said, you're going to have a boy. She never said he was healthy. And then moments later, it felt like an hour, but moments later, the OBGYN came in and kind of told us sadly that they were having trouble locating part of our son's brain known as the cerebellum. They really weren't sure what was wrong with him, but they were going to send us the following day to see a maternal fetal specialist who'd be able to tell us exactly what the problem was. And it would be the specialist the following day who would make us aware that our son had the neural tube defect, had the most severe form of spina bifida known as a myelomeningocele. And then since my wife had worked in a hospital with premature children, you would think that she would have recollection of this issue with the child. But at the time, there were no neural surgeons on staff at our hospital, and those are the types of physicians that have to be present immediately following the birth of this child, this type of condition, to provide the care that they need. And there were none there, so they sent us home with some information. And that night we began to read through it. And as we began to read through it, we stumbled on some pretty startling statistics. Would you like me to share some of those with your audience?
Well, in the essence of time, I'm gonna jump us a little bit further, only because the thing is I can only imagine how confusing this would have been. And you were given the decision, to possibly abort the baby, keep the baby. And what was it that led you to keeping Eli?
Well, I think there were three things definitively. Number one, first and foremost, this was our child. We had helped co-create it. We knew from basic biology that from the moment of conception, there's a developing organism in the species of Homo sapien. Mm-hmm. So, a zygote is once a zygote, then it's an embryo, then it's a fetus. Humans beget humans, dogs beget dogs, cats beget cats. There's another person involved here. So first and foremost, I think, we knew that the decision we would make would involve another person. Mm-hmm. And that was something that needed to be taken very seriously. Second of all, I don't think my wife nor I thought that a prenatal diagnosis with a birth defect was an automatic death sentence. Right. And third of all, I think that basically, we knew that if we trusted in something bigger than ourselves, that this child had been sent for a reason. Well, and we needed to trust in that.
And I want to pause right there after this break and come back to that, because that's really where your story takes you all the way through, is that faith that you have. So everybody, I want you to stay with us. This is Chad Judice sharing his story about his son Eli. We're going to be coming right back after this break, expanding further on how your faith kept you strong through this journey. We'll be right back.
Listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari.
There are many sounds in your day-to-day life. There are sounds that wake you up. Sounds that make you smile. Sounds that energize you. And sounds that help you relax. But there are some sounds that can alert you to danger and can help save lives. Wireless emergency alerts, now on many mobile devices, use a unique sound and vibration to bring you information about severe weather events, Amber Alerts, or other emergencies in your area. With critical information from local sources you know and trust, you can be in the know, wherever you are. For more information, visit ready.gov/alerts. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Keyboard Cat, Hamilton the Pug, and Toast Meets World. These are some of the internet's most beloved pets. With millions of YouTube views, shares, Instagram likes, followers, and fans across the globe. But what do all these amazing pets have in common? Their stories started in a shelter. Start your story. Adopt a dog or cat today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a shelter or adoptable pets near you. Training that pet to play the keyboard? Well, that's entirely up to you. Visit theshelterpetproject.org and hear more about Hamilton the Pug, Toast, and Keyboard Cat's amazing adoption stories. Start a story. Adopt a shelter or rescue pet today. Your perfect pet is just a click away at theshelterpetproject.org. A public service announcement brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
As an 18-year-old, I let my mistakes kind of take over my life. I was 0.5 credits away from completing high school, and I didn't do it.
10 years later, at age 28, Jackie finished her high school diploma.
When I found out that I was pregnant, I know that I had to do something for myself if I wanted to make her a better person and provide a better life for her. My family never stopped pushing for me to be better because they knew what I could become and who I could become as a person. My support team is amazing. The educational director, my sister, and even my 7-year-old daughter has just been more than the support that I could ask for. I've been given an opportunity, and I'm just thankful for it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
What if I could tell you that a full-blown wildfire was going to occur tomorrow right where you live? Tell you exactly which neighborhoods it would engulf and how fast it would do it. The first thing you would do is talk with your loved ones and make a plan today. It's true, I can't tell you a wildfire will strike tomorrow, but shouldn't you make a plan anyway? Go to ready.gov/communicate and make your emergency plan today. Don't wait. Communicate. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a trusted life coach, Nancy will help you overcome setbacks and embrace all life has to offer. Call in with questions live at 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. And now, here's Nancy.
Welcome back to the Living Full Out Show. I am Nancy Solari, and today we're talking about confusion and how do we get from being confused to having clarity and making that jump. And it's not always the same amount of time for anybody. It just depends on where in that journey, we get the lessons, we get the insights, we get the resources or the motivation to move ourselves along in that process. I'd like to welcome back our inspirational guest today, Chad Judice. He's sharing with us his story about his son Eli, who was born with Spina Bifida, and just all that they've encountered, both the challenges and the joys. So I'd like to bring Chad back into the conversation. Thank you again for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. Now, you wrote a book, and what is the title of that? So we have that.
Waiting for Eli, A Father's Journey from Fear to Faith.
And I want everybody to write that down because it is a very special book. But when you sat down to write that, the words just flowed. I mean, this is a story that you had lived, but it didn't come, with just all the answers given to you. You and your wife really had to troubleshoot through a lot of surgeries, a lot of big decisions. But along your path, there were signs. And I know there's more signs than we can even go into today. But if you were to pick two of the biggest signs that allowed you to keep that faith strong, stay motivated, love your son in the biggest way, what were those?
Sure. I think for me, I'm a high school teacher, so I think first and foremost, the biggest one was the impact I saw him having in utero on the entire school community and the students. I went into the classroom a day or so after I got the diagnosis, and I was in front of a group of boys that reminded me very much of myself when I was a young man around the age of 17, 18 years old. I'm a junior, about to become a senior, and we start every class with a prayer. And I thought, all day long, this is the one class I can't break down in front of, because if I break down in front of them, I'm going to lose these young men. And when we started class, I said, listen, I don't know what your faith life is like right now, but right now it's all I have. There's something wrong with my son. And I'm asking you today if you'll join me in prayer on his behalf. And when I started to try to pray, I lost it. I was sobbing uncontrollably in front of these kids. And, you could have heard a pin drop in the room. And a little girl in the back of the room in a very slight voice began to pray the Lord's Prayer, the Our Father. And as she began to pray, all of a sudden, all these boys and all these young men who I had been engaging with to a point where they knew I cared about them, but they were still kind of feeling me out. They had prayed like kind of haphazardly and gone through the motions. But when they began to pray fluently and with purpose and intent, it was probably the most moving experience I've ever had. And I'll be starting my 17th year of teaching this coming August. Mm-hmm. That sign just showed me that my son was a person who was being acknowledged subconsciously as a person and having this huge impact on the lives of other people. And that was one huge sign to know that from the beginning that there was a purpose for his life and that it needed to be allowed to play itself out, and that I wasn't the person to decide when it begins and when it ends. And I think the second biggest sign that my wife and I had throughout the entire pregnancy was along, there were hills and valleys. Obviously, you mentioned many of them. There were surgeries that have come in the past. Eli's 8 years of his life. He's had 5 major brain operations in his life. And he has an older sibling who's 12 and a younger sibling now who's about to turn 3 in July. And I think the impact that his life has had on his eldest brother and how my eldest son has taught me what true selflessness is, what it means to will the good of other as other over self, and how fulfillment in our humanity truly comes from showing that type of love for another person. Mm-hmm. Those are the two things that I think I've seen, and I could even see it before Eli was born. He was asking questions about his brother, was praying for him, wanted to know things about him, was envisioning things he would do with him. Just the human impact that this one life had on other lives. The two biggest signs, I think, that I could look back on this whole journey over the past 8 years and say, well, let me know that God was with us and that we needed to do this.
Well, and thank you for sharing those signs with us, because everybody listening today, it's really important that we have our eyes as wide open as we can, our ears as clearly listening as we can, because sometimes it will come in the form of a whisper. It might be a stranger. It might be a song. It might be just a piece of paper with a note on it out of nowhere. And if we allow ourselves to kind of soak up these signs along the way, I do believe they do guide us. They do help reinforce that purpose and that intention. Now, we're talking today about confusion, and obviously you and Ashley went through many confusing decisions and, times of heartache and concern, and 8 years later, here Eli is thriving. And I guess what I'm asking next is, along this path, did you ever have the question of why me? Why Ashley and me? Why our family? No, honestly, I never asked why me. My question was always, why not me? From where I sit and from my worldview, God gave his only son for me. So, why not me? I mean, I've been asked to make a sacrifice. Not nearly as difficult as that. But I had stopped myself and did ask myself a why question. In the midst of the pregnancy, I looked at myself in my current situation. I said, why didn't I recognize the beautiful wife and the healthy child that I had before and appreciate it the way I should have? Why did this have to happen for me to see the blessings in my life? A beautiful wife and a healthy child. Before Eli came along, my wife told me, you have no idea how many things have to go right in a 9-month pregnancy, medically and biologically for a child to be born completely healthy. And, I took it for granted. Mm. And she was right. And so that's the only why question I've ever had. How have you as a man, I know you're a father and a husband, you have a lot of roles, but just you, just Chad. You know, you were a boy once, you were 8 years old, you were Eli's age. Today you're the father of 3. But how has being Eli's father, how has overcoming that fear changed you?
It's been an inner transformation that has become external. And I think it's transformed me in that it took me from being a boy into a man. You know, I don't think manhood is defined by a lot of the things that men seem to think manhood is defined by. I mean, I had bought into that for a long time in my life, but I came to realize that real manhood is, you know, based on learning that life is hard, that, you know, you're not that important, that it's really not all about you, that you're really not in control, and coming to grips with the fact that one day you're going to die. And when you look back over your life, those 5 keys to male initiation are really, really important in becoming a father and a husband and really playing that role out the way that it was intended to be, not the way that it's projected it should be.
I love that. And, you know, we have a lot of parents listening today who may have children who have autism, who have other different, you know, disabilities, whether they're physical, mental, who knows, right? Again, your wife was 100% right. Everything has to go right in that 9 months for someone to not, or maybe not to be born with, you know, a limitation of any kind. I'm actually legally blind, so clearly I was born with my own defect, right? But
absolutely.
But so when you consider the future, and all of our parents listening today with the same journey that you've gone on, but slightly different, what is your biggest fear of the future? But yet, how is that fear calmed, and how do you stay positive?
Okay, that's a really good question. I guess the best way for me to answer was, you know, I think fear gripped us at first. I think, you know, we had this preconceived notion that we'd be really compassionate. I think my wife did, you know, at first, if, you know, we took away all the suffering from our child. But, you know, if we'd have made that decision, I couldn't give you the hindsight that I have today on the other side of this. And, you know, I don't know anybody who's an expert in anything with 0 years experience. And I've got 8 years experience, and all these other parents have however many years experience with a child with a disability. And I think they would all say the same thing. You fear your child being ostracized. You fear your child being hurt or being singled out. But the truth of the matter is they're actually way more resilient than you are. And the positive side of it is to come to understand that they always get through these things a lot better than you do. And you realize in the long run that had you chosen another path, that the only person's convenience and the only person's suffering who would have been eliminated would have been your own. Eli's one of the happiest kids I've ever met. Every child and every person who engages with him, he's not cognitively disabled at all. He just finished first grade, which totally defied all the odds that had been predicted, you know, in his outcome. Everybody who engages with him is enriched. And although he does have difficulties in his life, we all have disabilities. You know, you and I can walk around. I mean, maybe not you, you're blind, but I can walk around all day and I can hide them from the visible world. But, you know, the beauty of Eli's life is that his disability is prevalent and it's there. And once you get past that, we can stop worrying about, you know, what he can do and see who he is. And I think everybody wants to know or be known for who they are.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what keeps me positive in this.
Absolutely. And as we round out our interview today, Chad, for those parents listening today or those who have not had their child yet but maybe had the same fear you did so many years back, what words of advice do you have for them to stay strong?
I think that if they try to handle it on their own, in their broken humanity, they're going to fail, and that they need to find not something but someone bigger than themselves. Because truth is not something, it's someone. And, you know, you don't find it, it finds you, and when it does, it transforms you. And if you find yourself in this situation and you have the fear and the anxiety and you're worried about all these things you're reading, don't trust everything you're reading, but, you know, or the advice that you've been given. But, you know, I would just say, and I'm not doing this to, you know, throw a book on anybody, but, you know, go to my website, check out our story, go on YouTube, watch a 40-minute documentary on it, and see that there is a happy ending. Mm-hmm. You know, but it all depends on your perspective and how you want to see it. And, you know, that's the bottom line.
I love that. I love that. And I do encourage everybody to go check out the book and the documentary because I saw several videos of Eli counting and saying all about the school that he has going on, first grade, second grade, all the things he has to look forward to, and he is a cutie pie, for sure. I want to thank you so much, Chad, for being on the show today, because you are hope that we can go from confusion to clarity. And I want to thank you so much for being on the show, and I wish you and your family a wonderful day. And for everybody listening, we're going to be coming right back, taking your calls. If you want to be empowered, or if you want to get out of confusion, I'll be taking your calls shortly. Thank you again, Chad, and we'll be thinking of you.
Thank you. Do you mind if I plug my website real quick before you break?
Well, we got to break. You got 2 seconds.
www.chadjudice.com. Check it out. Thank you.
You got it. All right, everybody. We'll be right back after this break. Thank you, Chad. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, Jason, I've got to tell you, you're pretty much everything this company is looking for in an entry-level candidate.
Great.
Your resume isn't quite what we're used to, but you've got a fantastic work ethic.
Thank you.
And I'm impressed by how you carry yourself.
So, should we talk about the job?
What? The job? Oh, sorry. Yeah, I have no way of recruiting or even meeting you. This interview didn't happen.
It may sound ridiculous, and that's because it kind of is. There's a huge pool of talent your company is missing out on. Meet the grads of life. Who are they? Talent worth knowing about. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
Man, we really could have used him.
Don't miss out on a resource many innovative companies have already discovered. Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
The following message is about Medicaid and CHIP, free or low-cost health coverage for kids and teens. Enrollment is open year-round.
Hey, voice lady, give me the mic.
Okay.
Hey, DJ, let's switch up the music. That's better. So listen up, moms and dads out there. There are these programs called Medicaid and CHIP. They offer free or low-cost health coverage for kids. Things like doctor and dentist visits, prescriptions, and shots are covered. All the stuff that keeps kids like me healthy and in charge.
So, as you can tell, a covered kid is a confident kid. And it means confident parents, too. To learn more about affordable health coverage for your family, visit healthcare.gov or call 1-877-KIDS-NOW. That's 1-877-543-7669.
Yep, you could do something big for your family today because enrollment is open year-round.
This has been a message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
And Sophia.
They're going to jump out of trees. You can't stop them. They'll go down the slide head first. They'll make parachutes out of sheets. They'll balance on things that are impossible to balance on, like the back of a couch or a windowsill or a scooter seat. They'll run with sharp objects. They'll run into walls. They'll climb things that won't hold their weight. They'll put their fingers in places where they could get smashed. They'll drive their tricycles down steep hills. They'll bounce balls off their faces. They'll step on each other. They'll jump on each other. They'll invent whole new ways to put themselves in jeopardy. But one of the most dangerous things kids will do happens while they're sitting perfectly still. Kids who ride in a car without a booster seat are much more likely to suffer serious or fatal injury during a crash than kids in boosters. But amazingly, 80% of all kids who need them aren't in them. After a toddler seat and until they're 4'9", booster kids, and don't let them down.
Go to boosterseat.gov to learn more about the importance of boosters. A message from the U.S. Department of Transportation and the Ad Council.
Hey, Nick Cannon here. So we all know we've got a lot of talent in America. But unfortunately, there's something else we've got way too much of. Childhood hunger. 17 million kids struggle with it in this country. That's why the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks gather surplus food to give hope to hungry kids and their families. Join me in supporting Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org.
A message from Feeding America and the Ad Council.
We're your pets, and this song's dedicated to those people who don't have health insurance yet. Enroll, we say, we want you to be okay. Enroll, we say,
Health insurance is now affordable and covers prescriptions, hospitalizations, and preventive care. Visit getcoveredamerica.org to learn more.
And take care, people.
Brought to you by Get Covered America and the Ad Council.
It's natural that in life we're going to be confused. We're going to be searching for answers, solutions, needing resources, needing a listening ear from time to time. But if you hold on to the purpose, if you learn the lessons of life, embrace that, get through the fire, get to the light, you will live your life full out. It's about being tenacious, it's about being versatile, being a leader in your life, and most of all, never giving up.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a certified life coach, Nancy can help you to overcome challenges and start living full out. Call in with questions live at 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. And now, here's Nancy.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Nancy Solari, and this is the Living Full Out show. And today we're talking about confusion. And one of the things that comes to mind for me with this topic most of all is the fact that you always want to remember that we're just human, right? You're not going to have all the answers. You're going to have times where you're going to be stumped, where you're going to be sad, where you're going to feel as though you just don't know which direction to go. And I'm right there beside you. So is a handful of people I know, pretty much everybody I know. No one gets out of this life without those moments of confusion. So I want you to lift those weights off your shoulders that you should have all the answers, because you shouldn't. It's about discovery. It's about learning. And I love to learn. I love to discover, what is possible. I know for me, being legally blind, that has come with a ton of confusion and fear, really. I've had to figure out ways in my life that I can function, that I can do my work, that I can be engaged in what everybody sighted can do. And that had to come with learning low vision aids, that had to countless hours of learning how to use special software on my computer. And most of all, being vulnerable, but being open, sharing with people those fears, those concerns I have, but also knowing that my limitation, my blindness has its own positive side, its own superpower, which I'm happy to share with you all in more here as we go along in the show. But I want you to think about today where you're stressed, where you're confused, where you feel hopeless. Know that this is just a time in your life. It's not a life sentence. And by calling into this show, by even reaching out to a friend, reading a self-help book, a motivational book, listening to a song that just gets you excited, that makes you invigorated inside. Those are things that can switch the energy in your body so that you can get out of feeling confused, but into a more hopeful place. So I want to go to the phone lines now and talk to one of our callers. Hello, welcome to the Living Full Out show.
Hi, Nancy.
Hi, thank you so much for calling in. How can we help you today?
I'm not sure if this is on topic or not, but I'll just throw it out there and see if you can help me with this. So I'm in my late 40s. I have a great life with a lot of friends and family, and I've been divorced for a bit now. I work hard and have a great career, take care of my kids. I stay reasonably fit. I work out. The thing that I've been finding over the last few years is when I go out with men, as they learn more about my career and my life, they don't seem to like it. They don't like that I make the same amount of money or more. And I'm finding that it's really common in men in my age range. It doesn't seem to bother men who are younger than me, like maybe 10 years younger, like in their 30s. But dating someone that much younger doesn't feel right to me, and I'm struggling with what to do, and I'm starting to feel frustrated.
I hear you on that. I do. And the thing is, actually, there's more women who are raising their hand right now saying, I've been there. I hear you, because it can be a problem on both sides, men and women, right? Everybody's got their own, when it comes to dating, their own challenges and hurdles to overcome. Here's what I would say.
But I have a lot of guys my age that are friends. Yeah. They don't seem like they have no problem dating, because they date a lot of women who don't make nearly what they do, and they enjoy that kind of, I think, difference, or they're just used to it.
But see, that could be true, but here's the thing. here's the thing. Be careful to assume. Because while it may be the financial or you being successful that seems to be what doesn't quite gel or blend with some of these guys that you're meeting, for some of the men on the other side, it may be some women are too emotional, too much drama, too much baggage. Maybe they don't make any money. Maybe they don't have a sense of purpose. So everybody's going to have their thing. If we're just focusing on you for right now, what I want you to think about is, what is it that you want in an ideal partner? And everybody that you date, younger, same age, older, they're all going to teach you something. So I would date. I wouldn't limit yourself, but don't lock yourself in. But have in your mind, what are some traits of somebody that you're looking for? The other thing too is, while you may be successful, financially or in your career, there's obviously going to be places in your life where you want to grow, where you want to make changes. And I think sometimes when you're talking to men on the other side, men started out as boys, right? They're just somebody's brother, right? They might be somebody's father, right? They're not any different. If you can come to them with something that you're vulnerable on, something that you'd like to change, something you wish was different, and then toss it to them. What is the area in your life you'd like to change? It's just that kind of dialogue, that intimate dialogue, where then you become bonded, then you become connected. These things will start to fade away. So if you don't develop that deep connection early, then people can judge each other on what they make, how successful they are, disabilities, limitations, kids, baggage, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? But try to just find some...
to figure out what you mean by that connection.
Well, asking questions that will provoke a deep answer. Getting to know the boy behind the man. Getting to know his fears. Getting to know his desires. Building that intimate connection. Because once they feel connected to you on that, sky's the limit. And I'm happy to talk to you and anybody else on the show offline, because we're closing up now, but I hope that it was helpful for you. And I want to say thank you so much for calling in. Okay?
That was actually really helpful. Thank you.
You got it. And as we round out today's show, just know that we can all get out of being confused. It's just reaching out for help, just like our callers and guests have done today. I want to thank everybody who's listening in today, our team here in the studio, Rich and Anna Lee, and most of all, I want to thank you. Here's to you living full out. We'll see you next week. Have a great day.